Order the SORTA board meeting for December 14th. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I don't think we had any hearings from citizens, right? So if folks come in and want to sign up later, they let me know. We'll see if we can fit it in. I guess we're not as many exciting topics right now, so fewer comments. Daryl.
I'd like to ask Dave Warning to stand up. Now, a lot of the people in the room probably won't recognize Dave Warning's face, but what I will tell you is you have seen Dave Warning's work all over Hamilton County. Dave Warning is in our graphics department. He has been with us for 40 years. So the Metro logos, the Metro buses, all of the work that comes, the amazing work that comes through our graphics department, Dave has been leading that for us for 4 decades. I'd like to honor him today as he is retiring at the end of this year. Thank Dave for all of his hard work, all of his amazing work, everything that you see that says Metro around the county, all of the brochures and whatnot all comes through the amazing work Dave has done for us. Dave, we are really, really, really going to miss you. So I'd like to present you with a CEO Star Award this morning.
Are you jealous? He's all in. Are you the opposite of that?
Thank you. I'll use some transit terminology. It's been a great ride, but it's time for a new route in my life. Yesterday was an emotional day for me with my retirement party and to say goodbye to something that's been my entire life, really. It's the only big boy job I've ever had. It was difficult to say goodbye to a job I love, the people I love working with. And Metro will always have a special place in my heart. So I hope that all of you make sure that it's still a great place. So, thanks.
Thanks, Dave.
Dave started with us as an intern.
Wow.
Daryl likes me to tell this story, so I'll tell it. So I was a junior at NKU majoring in graphic design, and I had a class that ended right before lunch. So college students, it's lunchtime, you want to get the heck out of class. So every day I would, around noon, I'd run out of class, make a right, head to the elevator doors, go get my lunch. This particular day, the elevators were out of order, so I had to run out the door, make a left, go to the stairwell, go down the steps. But in doing so, I passed my instructor's office, and he yelled, "Hey, Warning, come in here." So I came in, and he said, "Hey, you interested in an internship?" And I said, "Yeah, where?" And he said, "Queen City Metro." I said, "The bus company?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, sure." So I called that day, made an appointment for an interview, had the interview the next day and was hired the next day. And except for about 6 months working for ATE, I've been here ever since. And I guess the message of the story is not to stay at a job for 40 years. I think the real message of the story is every once in a while, go a different way. Because you might run into a great opportunity. Thanks.
That's right. Okay, so yeah, remember to go left sometime. That's awesome. Couple things. Did want to, our last meeting of the year, really been an amazing year, right, as we've worked through a lot of things. Certainly, COVID's continued to be a challenge, and rolling out the new Reinventing Metro plan's been great. So many things. So excited about where we're heading. Daryl continues to put a great team together. I think that delivers in challenging environments, which is just great. We're about to get ready to sign the first set of infrastructure deals in January. I know the team's working hard on that. That's super exciting for the whole community. We're continuing to hire and work hard in that space. So I think Adrian every day, right? So getting creative with that, which is awesome. I hope we're getting close to completing the union contract. I know fact finding was yesterday. I don't know if you'll have a chance to update us on that. So a lot of great things setting us up, even with CPS, I know, which has been a challenge. We're going to see the ridership numbers later today that are still real solid versus where they were before, and we'll continue to work to make sure students get to school this year and how we help in the future. So really excited about all of that and the continued rolling out of Reinventing Metro, and so excited about all the creative and exciting things we can do later on. I think you're going to see today some continued discussion around improved regional coordination, right, which is great with the related counties and access and things, which is fantastic. And so just really want to say thank you for all the hard work and all that we have to look forward to. Okay? So action items. Approval of the board minutes. You've seen them in your book. Hopefully you've had a chance to look and review, and I would be open to accepting motions. Did I skip some? Okay.
So moved.
So moved. Thank you, Gwen.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, comments, concerns? Okay. Voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say right. Any abstentions? Okay, awesome. Thank you. Committee reviews. Heidi.
Good morning, everybody. We had a very productive Finance Committee meeting last week and have several kind of consent agenda items for you today. Themes around audits, insurance, and service contracts. So if you look in, I want to say your binder, but we don't have those anymore. If you look on your iPads, you'll notice there are, I believe, 6 consent items, if I can count. The first is approval of a contract for audited financial statements for this year through
2021 through 2025.
This is state mandate, external auditor. The state gives you a list of who you can choose to audit. We're very excited about our new auditors. The current auditors we're working with can't audit us anymore because of the length of time they've been working with us. So that's the first one. The second 2 are around insurance. First is property insurance for 2022, and the second is general liability insurance. Any key talking points around that?
Pretty standard.
Yeah.
We've had some changes in our property. It's slightly up, but it is budgeted.
Yep.
Because of the property evaluation that was done by a new underwriter.
So, insurance renewals, and then the last 3 are service contracts for Metro service with Butler County, Claremont County, and Warren County. If I am remembering correctly, these are all kind of paid for through 5307 funds. Is that right?
Partially.
Partially. So pretty straightforward on that. But making sure we get people where they need to go.
Okay. You want to make a motion?
Yeah, I will make a motion that we approve the consent action items from the Finance Committee.
Properly moved. Second. Probably moved and seconded. Thank you, Larry. Okay, any questions? I know this was reviewed in great detail in committee. Not everyone was there, so if you do have questions, feel free to pull something off. No? Otherwise, we'll vote.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Ms. Burdon? Yes. Ms. Black?
Yes.
Mr. Etheridge?
Yes.
Mr. Hinton,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffmeister,
Yes.
Mr. Cassie,
Yes.
Ms. Robinson,
Yes.
and Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Okay, awesome, thank you. And I think that, right, working with those other counties is fantastic, and making sure we're protected from an insurance is as well. Any other comments from finance? No, ma'am.
It's always a pleasure, so you should join us at the next meeting.
I was there, I enjoyed the entire thing. Okay, planning and ops, Blake.
I enjoyed that meeting as well, and the efficiency was impressive, and I'm always trying to learn from finance. We had 3 items out of planning and ops, 3 resolutions. The first is for a contract for natural gas, and this is the intent of it is to stabilize the price for gas for the next 2 years. That is Resolution 2021-43. The next is -44, which is similar to what we did last month, but a different bridge. So it's repair of the Madison Avenue Bridge. And then item 2021-45 is repair of the Montgomery Road Bridge. So I think these are all the bridge repairs that we have to take care of. And the exciting thing about these is that they are half covered by federal funds, which is, I think, the first time in all the repairs we've done on these that that's the case. So I move passage of all the consent action items out of planning and ops.
Properly moved.
Second.
Larry's seconding, he's on a roll today.
Yeah.
Any comments or questions? There are some big dollar numbers here, but they're things we really can't avoid doing. I know we got some extra detailed sent back in response to some questions, so hopefully people had a chance to see those and are comfortable with them. So, any questions on these items? No, the committees are working as they're supposed to, I guess. So roll call, right?
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Ms. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Cassie,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffmeister,
Yes.
Mr. Hinton, Mr. Etheridge,
Yes.
Ms. Black,
Yes.
Ms. Burdine.
Yes.
All right, making good progress. We're going to hold on the infrastructure review. Board member Cull is running a little bit late, but he will be here soon to take us through those. So why don't we move into the financial reports and come back to the infrastructure discussion?
All right. So pulling up the operating statement from November. What we see here is just like we did in October, we're seeing a comparison in the month and the year-to-date to the forecast, and at the far end, a comparison to the year-to-date budget. The operating surplus before adjustments was $1.2 million for the month and $23.2 million year-to-date. Capital revenue was recorded to offset the operating surplus, which is used to build the capital reserve. Our total revenue of $11.4 million for the month was unfavorable to our forecast slightly by 0.7 million or 5.9%. And our year-to-date total revenue of $126.2 million was unfavorable, 1 million or 0.7% compared to the year-to-date forecast. Some of those drivers for the total revenue variance our fare revenue was virtually flat to our forecast. Our actual year-to-date fare revenue compared to forecast was favorable by $54,000 or 0.6%. The Get Out the Vax Weekend event during the month of November provided free rides for 36,579 riders with both our fixed route and access service. The revenue from the state of Ohio recorded to fund the event is reported in the line for state subsidy revenues. The CPS contract revenue was adjusted for a credit of $2.1 million of unused passes at the end of November. The adjustment which is allocated over the entire 21-22 CPS school year will impact the 2022 CPS revenue as well. As of the end of November, our revenue from CPS for the 2021-2022 school year is estimated to be $2.7 million. The total expense,
Can I want to make a quick comment on it. So I know there's a lot of numbers flying around CPS, right? So if you remember, the general process is, we issue badges, and every year they return some of them if they're not used. So you issue badge for every kid that's eligible for bus riding, right?
yes,
So normally we get the badges physically back and then credit. This year they asked for credit even if they hadn't returned the badge physically.
yes.
So we did, and I think this is important, make the choice not to shut off all those badges, even when they said these aren't being used, because we certainly didn't want to put operators in a situation to have to turn away a student, and we didn't want students to get stranded going to school. So we are monitoring every month, and I think you said, 600 badges or something like that, some number in that, where 600 additional badges have been used at some point. So if we had shut those off, kids would have had trouble getting to school. So, we're continuing to try to act on behalf of the students. It's a little bit of a confusing process, but we'll continue to make sure that they don't suffer as we work our way through the CPS discussion.
But we are communicating with CPS about,
When they're used, right, to say, hey,
right, letting them know.
we're charging you for these exams.
Yes,
Yes.
all right.
And CPS has reached out to us to not deactivate some of the passes as well.
Okay.
So we are in constant communication.
So we're communicating.
Cindy, are we projecting a 47% loss on the CPS line for the year?
Yes, I mean, it's a significant loss, yes.
I'm looking at that final column there.
Yes, the budget, yes.
Okay.
So it means two things, right? Less revenue for us, but less expense to CPS. So I think as there's a lot of discussion from their side as well. So it's, yes, a more efficient way to get kids to school, I guess.
And there's also less cost to the system as well with the new, CPS service, regular routes. It's less actual
Cost.
miles and hours on the street, so the cost of the system.
So do you have a net?
I don't with me, but I can get that for you.
I'm just curious to see how that's impacting the budget overall.
Yeah. It'll be a couple $1 million.
Yeah, that's what we.
Okay, sorry to interrupt.
No worries. Any other questions on revenue? Our total expense was 10.2 million favorable to the forecast by the total expense of 10.2 million was favorable to the forecast by 520,000 or 4.8% for the month. Our year-to-date total expense of 103 million was favorable to our forecast by 1 million or 1%. Our key drivers in our expense, the wages and benefits was favorable to forecast by 395,000 or 5.1%. Much of that is due to open positions and an adjustment. We did make an adjustment based on our history to workers' compensation of 145,000. This is favorable, and it is as a result of our 5-year average of workers' compensation. The fuel and lubricants was favorable to forecast, 38,000 or 8.6%, which was primarily due to our favorability in the miles per gallon that we ran during the month versus what we had projected in the forecast. The parts and supplies favorable to forecast of 71,000 or 11.1% was due to favorable cycle count adjustment of 43,000, our tires expense of 13,000, and 18,000 was due to some timing of equipment and furniture. Any questions on the expense? Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Why don't we go to ridership, and then we'll give Brendan a chance to settle in a little bit.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry.
Morning, Matt.
Morning. All right. Good morning. So I'll be presenting the ridership for the month of November. So I'll start with our fixed routes. Last month, we had total ridership of 745,000. And that number is slightly lower than the previous month. However, that's our normal trend for the month of November. We normally see a decrease, and you'll see that on the next slide on the chart here in just a second. Our local service made up the majority of those rides at 723,000, Express was just over 21,000 for the month. And year-to-date, we're at about 6.9 million rides, or about 29.5% lower than originally projected. And again, this slide shows the last 3 years of ridership. So as you can see from the dark blue and light blue lines, normally there is a decrease in the month of November. But the green line for the for the year 2021, you can see that line is not as steep. So we are maintaining the trend in the right direction. So fixed routes carried 12.2 passengers per hour on local routes and 4.8 passengers per trip on our express routes. Our weekday ridership averaged about 32,000 rides, Saturdays 13,000, and Sundays about 10,000. So total missed trips for the month of November was 1,708. Of those missed trips, 1,563 were due to no operator being available.
Hey, Matt, I want to make one comment. On the previous slide, you can see the passengers per trip for the express service, right? Has that dramatic drop when COVID hit, right? And I think so I know there's some discussions around the service changes in December, and some folks say, hey, you really cut into express. That's why. It has come back so much slower than the rest of the business, because those are the jobs where folks are still working from home. So I just think keep that in your mind if those topics come up. Yep. Sorry.
So Metro operated 97.4% of all scheduled trips. I do have some more news for you about missed trips, but I'm going to save those I got a couple more slides on missed trips. So if you hang in there for just a moment.
Foreshadowing.
Yes. So the next graph here, this shows the daily missed trips. So every day of the week, or every day of the month, rather, for the month of November. And as you can see, it continues to be very similar to previous months, where it's kind of erratic and hard to predict. And on the next slide, you'll see this graph shows the average number of missed trips by day of the week. So Mondays and Fridays continue to be the days with the highest number of missed trips. But as I mentioned before, we do have some good news. The December service changes took effect on December 5th, just about a week ago. And since then, the first 5 days of December, there were 328 missed trips due to no operator being available, which is about 65 per day or so average. Since then, when the service changes went into effect, the 7th through the 12th, which is an entire week, there were only 68 missed trips due to no operator, or about 10 per day average. Of course, 7 days worth of data does not a trend make, but just a little more information. The operator absenteeism has remained about the same. It's been about 17 to 20% throughout both November and the beginning of December. And so in the December service changes, as you may recall, earlier this year, we brought to you a resolution to purchase some planning software. And so what the planning and scheduling staff has been doing is using that software to look at our system, seeing where we can find efficiencies, seeing where we can make changes to save us resources. That includes our operators and vehicles. And so we've been finding better ways to do things, better ways to link up trips from multiple routes into one block, or using one vehicle to do two things, essentially. So we're continuing to monitor this. We'll keep looking at it, but it's looking very positive.
Awesome. Yeah, great.
And CPS ridership, this is a new slide for this month. This chart shows the number of CPS student pass, taps, or rides by month since the beginning of this school year. So as you can see, between August and October, we've seen an increase in the number of CPS rides. Although the month of November is lower than October, it's important to keep in mind we had Thanksgiving in there. There were a couple holidays and a couple of non-school days. So I believe there were 21 school days in October and only 17 in November.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, I think, to add that sort of daily average or whatever into
Yeah, so we're right around, we're creeping up close to about 9,000 CPS rides per day, every school day.
And our last time we had normal service was around that same
It was
number.
very close to that. It's slightly less than that, but very close. We're getting very close. And finally, moving on to paratransit. Total ridership for the month was 12,506. It's only about 3.4% lower than the original projections. 11,000 rides took place on weekdays, 500 on Saturdays, and 1,000 on Sundays. That number for Sunday is higher because Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, was considered a Sunday schedule. So that's why that number looks higher. And year-to-date, paratransit Ridership is about 137,000 rides, or 13.9% lower than projections. And the same slide we had for fixed route, we also have for paratransit. This is the 3-year comparison. Again, you would normally see the seasonal trend take a dip in the month of November. But as you can see from the green line, that was not the case this year. It's a much less steep change. So, and I believe that concludes the report. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, can you go back to the express strips that you showed? No, the graph with the express strips. It says the decline because people those people who, generally speaking general terms here, they're not returning to work. And that's attributed to they can work from home, or they have other ways. They don't necessarily come in downtown to work or some other location. Do you think then that those trends will continue into January, February, or do you see any dramatic change in that? And I know we've already cut the 14X Express. Do you see the trends changing?
I don't think they're going to change anytime soon. It's the reason we went ahead and made some adjustments on the routes for December. We will continue to watch it. It is up a little bit now because we were running about 3 passengers per trip. We're now up over 4 passengers per trip, but 4 passengers per trip is still really low. We'll continue to watch it, and as that changes, we'll make another adjustment to the express routes. I don't believe it's going to change anytime soon, but that's just Daryl's opinion.
So then are we going to reallocate resources to the more non-express?
That's exactly what we did for the December pick, and that's one of the things, as he talked about, we're really excited. Now, we've only got a week's worth of data, but we've literally gone from about over 65 missed trips due to no operators a day to down under 10 a day, and we're hoping that continues. So we actually, every quarter, go in and reallocate everything. We look at all of our routes, and we make adjustments every quarter. And this is the adjustment from the December. So we'll be making another adjustment at the end of the first quarter of next year. We'll be watching the ridership, both on the express routes as well as local routes, and making those adjustments as need be the next quarter.
And do you think these people will come back? These express people will come back?
We hope they do. It depends on where the pandemic goes, and it depends on where the industry goes, whether people continue to work from home, whether they come back into the office. It's something that we look at on a weekly basis.
I think there's kind of 2 competing forces happening. There certainly is the variants hit and people stay at home, but we also know, had plenty of discussions. And Amy, you talked to a lot of the business folks, right? So the concept of people not wanting to buy monthly passes is they're not coming down all the time.
Yeah.
And so maybe, taking the bus more often because, that dynamic of paying $20 a day for parking if you don't have a monthly pass. So, but every time, I know even in my community where I work, right, we were all back in the office in June, and then by July we were back at home. So I think it's hard for us to anticipate as long as I think it's safe to say as long as the pandemic is present, in a way that's spooking people, they're probably not going to be a vast return to work, but we don't want to eliminate the service in total because it might.
Well, and then it brings me to another challenge I see is that I hear more and more that you get a hybrid approach where you only have to come in for 2 days, or you only have to come for 3 days. And how do you address a bus schedule for that?
It's not difficult right now because the passengers per trip are 4. So there's plenty of room on the vehicles right now for, to carry the passengers. So it's not a challenge now. And again, we continue to look at this on a regular basis. Weekly, we're looking at what the passenger loads are. And if we have to make adjustments, we will make adjustments. It's not necessary right now. And if you look at the long-term graph, it is starting to creep up, but not by very much. And I'm sure as people begin to come back into the office, it will be gradual. I don't imagine that one day everybody will come back to the office. But we'll continue to watch it, and where we made an adjustment on a downward level for December, at some point in time, we hope to be making an adjustments on an upward level. So we didn't just reduce the number of trips, just take a trip out. We spread them out to make sure that the timing points were there. So we didn't just take the first trip or the last trip out. We just made sure we spread them out so all of the people that use that service can still use it efficiently to get to and from work.
And I think you won't find that if every company said, okay, you're in 2 days a week, it's not the same 2 days for everybody, for every company too. So I think it'll get spread out. But I do think it's an interesting dynamic of what we're finding. Like I said, some folks saying, if I'm not coming down every day, I'll take the bus instead of paying for daily parking. But obviously, four person per trip is not helping us out.
Are you seeing, oh, I'm sorry.
No, you go.
I was curious about that as well. Just, I mean, purely anecdotally with my office building, there's, tumbleweed blowing through the garage on Mondays and Fridays. So I'm curious if you're looking at the day, like
Absolutely.
if there are consistent days right now that you're seeing more people on the express.
Absolutely. We look at it daily and monthly, and I don't know if you want to talk about that, Matt.
No, you're just absolutely right. It is hard to predict if you're given the hybrid approach, right, which days you can come into work. Like you said, Mondays and Fridays are always the lowest number of folks in the office, right? But as you said, there is capacity there. And what we don't want to do is make such a dramatic change where when folks do come back to the office, they can't use the service anymore, right? So we're trying to make sure we have, as Daryl said, make sure the span is still there and that we're spacing them out so that the service is still there when you choose to come back. And just one other comment is, I've also heard from a lot of organizations out there that they said, oh, we're going to come back to the office August 1st, and then that got pushed back to November, and then January. So we're expecting some of those folks to come back, but we're just not sure when yet.
And we don't have capacity issues any day of the week. So there are no challenges on any weekday on capacity on those routes.
I was just going to say, I think, it's important to keep the service there so when people do come back, it's almost like they know that we've been there for them all along. The other thing I think is interesting just from as you're factoring it, I mean, I haven't heard anybody complain about traffic in 2 years. And one of the reasons people take the express is because they don't like to sit in 71 and 75 traffic. And so I think that that's a driver in terms of what people are choosing. And so that's another downstream effect of people not coming back to the office on a regular basis. If you're only at 60% 3 days a week, that just lightens the load on the highway. It means you can get from Mason to downtown faster.
Yes.
But I don't know, long term, I think it's tremendously important to keep.
And luckily, gas prices are going up. That'll help.
No, they're back down.
Puts people in the buses. That's it. Okay. More questions? I mean, this is
It's good stuff.
what we do, so it's important. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Matt. That's great. Brendan, you ready?
Yes, I apologize for being late, Mr.
No, we're
Board. I applaud you all for running through the agenda at breakneck pace. So I'm sorry if this held anyone up.
No, we're thrilled to have you here, and I did want to wait. I think it's really exciting what you have to share. Right, we've been working for about 10 years, I think, if not longer, board helping push forward this Oasis Trail discussion, and so really thrilled that we're making some progress and looking forward to sharing it with the rest of the board.
Thank you. But first, though, we have one other one, right?
Yep.
Okay, so first is number 11, which is the infrastructure, what's the official name of the committee? The Infrastructure Bike and Right-of-Way Committee met last Friday. Thank you to those who were there. The first is item 11, which Khaled talked us through. This is the authorizing the Daryl to sign 30 different agreements from 22 different municipalities within Hamilton County to spend no more than $32,934,100. The agreements are attached to this packet. This is the final step for the SORTA board in terms of signing agreements with municipalities and townships and villages and the cities to fund the infrastructure projects that we have previously voted on. I will remind the group, as I always do, we would not be in such a good place when it comes to standing up a brand new infrastructure program that this organization had never done without the leadership of Daryl and John and Khaled and our chairman, Craig Cassey, who spent a ton of time making sure that the program was fair and clear, Special thanks to Kim for really leaning in from a leadership perspective on the council perspective. So thank you. This has been a true team effort, and I really think that 20 years from now, we're still going to be doing this program, and getting it started on the right foot was such an enormous thing for this organization. So again, thank you to those people I named for really being leaders in getting us to this point. So that's the first motion that's on the docket here. And I guess I will move it.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Any questions, comments? Effectively, right, this is just authorizing to sign what we approved earlier. The integrating committee approved as well.
Boys.
Okay.
Really? Okay, great.
Yes.
All those in favor, yep.
Opposed?
Aye. I'm an aye. I want to be an aye.
I'm aye.
It was quiet.
I missed that.
We're usually used to those being a,
Enthusiastic, okay.
okay.
I just wasn't expecting it to be a voice. Like
I know.
I know, I wasn't either.
Can we do it again so that there's a little more oomph?
All right.
in it? All those.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say right. Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. Now we got it going.
The next, this next one is, some years ago, this organization was approached by a group of folks who were working on creating a bike and recreation trail that goes essentially from Lunken Airport to downtown. Gwen, I think you were on that walk too.
Yes, yes.
Craig was on the walk. I
Yes.
think we might have been the only
Yeah.
three board members who were here who were on
Yes.
that walk. And Donna, I think you were there. Sally Hilvers was
Sally.
there. We were traipsing down the
Yeah.
railroad on the way on a bus. It was John.
Yes.
Were you there, John? And Daryl
Daryl was there, yep.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was a lovely morning. We went for a walk along the woods, along an abandoned railroad trail that we discovered that we owned. This has been something that this organization has voted on multiple times over the last 7 or 8 years to express our support for having this become a part of the multimodal transit system that we all hope to achieve. Having that trail connected to our bus routes and to our buses, all of which have bike infrastructure on the front of the buses so that people can ride the bus and ride their bikes, not at the same time, is really critical. And so this has been a complicated dance to get us to today's point, which is authorizing essentially Daryl to sign a contract, which is submitted substantially in the form attached, to purchase back the easement over the north set of tracks that we own. And so just in short, the Indiana and Ohio Railway Company operates a train a couple of times a week in the middle of the night on the south track. There are 2 sets of tracks. They operate a train on the south track. They have an easement over the north track so that they can access the south track. SORTA owns the land. We own the track materials on the north track. And it is our intent to work with partners to let them build a bike recreational multimodal access trail on the north track. To do that, we've been involved in a negotiation over the last several years with the city and Great Parks from the county and the railroad to purchase that easement and get them to a position where they would allow us to move forward. What we're voting on today is agreeing to that purchase of $3 million for the north easement. It is something that has value to us, whether there's a trail there or not, because it allows us to control our destiny a little bit more clearly. The money has been held in reserve in a fund currently hosted at the city of Cincinnati, but that is SORTA money. So for probably more than a year, we've been planning towards this expenditure. I think that's fair if I'm looking at Craig and Daryl. So this isn't a burden to the organization, but it allows us to control our destiny a little bit more and play a role in getting it to the point where folks can commute as part of this trail. There's still a ways to go, just for everyone. We're not going to be running on this trail next week or riding a bike on this trail next week. The next big phase is the design phase to get it to the point where everyone's comfortable from a safety perspective Daryl and John and others will be at the table for all of those conversations. But this is a pretty major step forward in that we are voting to substantially agree to purchase that easement. So I'm obviously super excited about this, have been excited about this for several years. It's coming a day before the, for those of you who know the Wasson Way Trail, the last piece of the Wasson Way Trail headed eastward is going to open tomorrow at 11 o'clock. This will take you through Alt Park, over an old abandoned rail trestle in Alt Park, which is really going to be magical, and down to Red Bank Road, also connecting us to a pretty substantial transit corridor for us on Red Bank Road, where we have a lot of buses going by. This community, I think, is fast becoming a community where we understand how bikes and buses intersect with one another and how that builds a great multimodal community. And I think it makes us attractive to people to live here, and it makes us attractive to people who want to move here from other places. And so I'm excited, and I would officially move that we approve this. You want to tell them how it's funded?
Second.
I did, didn't I? I don't think so. Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Properly moved and seconded.
He asked how it is funded, and this is SORTA money that is currently held at the city, but it is our money that will be transferred to us later on. We've been holding in reserve a certain amount of money at the city for this purposes and other true-up purposes with regard to the switch from earnings tax to sales tax.
Right, so remember we had a lot more money in the transit fund than we expected to get at the end as we were negotiating to get the garages and things like that. It's related to this. We know there's substantially more money than we ever even imagined, so still waiting to come. But this money was kind of held there in anticipation of this and set aside, so it wouldn't affect our operations or any other plans we have at this time.
I have another question. Oh, I'm sorry.
Good. So the expectation is that once the bike trail is going to increase ridership with Metro?
It's part of the expectation, but it's also part of this sort of multimodal, sharing of a mass transit system, right? So there's a couple things. One is right now there's also maintenance we have to do along that path, just like we approved the 2 bridge repairs, right? There's bridges along this path too that the plan would be for the bike path people to take on those costs and things. So there's some savings for us, but it's also just part of a broader mass transit system.
Yeah, I should say that when we're talking about the money, long-term, we are not building this trail. That will be other entities who will pay to build this trail. And we are not maintaining this trail. That will be another entity who's, Great Parks, who's committed to maintaining that. So we're doing our part today, and other organizations then will step up to get it across the finish line.
But fair question.
If I could add, as we build this multimodal system, and Brendan talked about this, it makes us a more attractive community. It also helps our grant applications. When we're talking about multimodal systems, we become more attractive, in our grant opportunities because we have walking, we have bikes, we have buses. It's the multimodal, the really connected region that this also brings to the table, makes us more attractive in all the things that we do.
I have a couple of questions. Well, first of all, let me preface it all by saying it sounds like a great project, and I'm excited about it and looking forward to it. So with regard to the City of Cincinnati fund, is this then effectively going to close that out, or do we still have money in that fund?
There's money beyond this there that we'll close that by July.
Of 2022?
Yes.
Okay. And then secondly, you said this and I missed it. How active is this southern track? It's just...
It's like, if you ask the people who live near it, it's very active. If you ask I don't think they make meetings here. I shouldn't be so flippant. What we discovered in the research is they're running 2 or 3 times a week, generally between midnight and 8 a.m. And what they're doing is they're unloading pig iron, I think it's called, or something along these like big giant chunks of iron. They unload it into a train down by the end of Tedbury Friendship Park.
Okay.
Load it into a train, and then they take it out along the track all the way north. That's the last remaining customer who is there. By our contract, they are not allowed to add any more customers along that route, or at least they're not allowed to seek any more customers. So there's really nowhere else to go. So once that stops operating, you won't really have any trains that go along that track. And the
Okay, well, you
railroad's
headed
being-
off my follow-up there, so.
Yeah, the railroad's being pretty clear that there's, some fencing that I think is going to be required to do this safely. The folks who have been really detailed involved in the trails have gone and looked at other situations where you have a rail line next to a track, and everybody's been clear that they agreed that when there is a train moving along the track, we will have the trail will be closed. Generally, because it's in the middle of the night, the trail's not open in the middle of the night, but just by rule, we'll have some way of getting, closing it down if there needs to be a train along the way.
And by this agreement, the railroad doesn't get any of this money until they approve the design
Yeah.
for the trail.
Okay. How far apart are the northern track and the southern track?
It depends on where you are. I mean, I don't know the exact number of feet, but the schematic shows it all the way along.
And a lot of this agreement was to make sure the liability doesn't fall back with us,
Yeah.
the trail or the rail. So that's what's taken so long. So there's a substantial amount of funds have to be identified at the city and things like that, and the liability taken on by the other parties to manage this.
And then I have one more.
You can ask more than one.
I mean, I probably will. SORTA will sell or lease the trail to the city of Cincinnati or Great Parks of, I assume that's Hamilton County. What's that process gonna be?
Long-term, because we're not going to be doing the maintenance or any of the upkeep on it, it may make more sense for the city or Great Parks to own this. We'd have to negotiate that through of how to transfer that property, and it was also bought with 100% federal money.
Sure.
So there's a federal process, and we'd have to go through that as well.
Okay, so that's entirely TBD at this
Yes.
point. Okay.
The parties have all been talking about how to do it, and there's just a couple choices left.
Could be a sub, could be whatever.
Sure.
One of the next
Another
steps.
agreement that has to happen after this one. This is just the one with the railroad, so.
Yeah, so one of the next steps is an agreement between us, the city of Cincinnati, Hamilton County, Great Parks, as to how we move forward. So that'll be the next thing coming back to the board.
Got it. So step one is the agreement between the city of Cincinnati, the county, and the railroad, I guess, right?
Yes, with
As far
us.
as the construction, and then step two is the handoff.
Yes.
Right.
So, yeah, and we're working with them right now to put an agreement together, because we will not have any liability for the trail
Yes.
moving forward.
Excellent.
And the alternative approach on this would be to just give everything up, not get a trail. Is that right? And we would lose the land and right away?
That-
Well, more or
An
less.
option, but we have to get the easement back to even do that, right?
So,
So getting the easement back is really critical to controlling of this property in any way, shape, or form, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
let's say, there's no media here, right? Like, I'm hypothetically speaking, right? Great. Let's just say they close
You're
down.
live on Facebook.
Let's just say, yeah, I'm teasing. But I'm teasing. I would say this anyway. Let's just say they closed down Riverside Drive completely and it became a bike path and we didn't want to do this particular bike path. It still would be very difficult to dispose of this property because the railroad continues to have that easement.
I'll also remind the board that the FTA on more than one occasion has asked us to do something with the rail right-of-way. And this is something very positive for this piece of the rail right-of-way as we review the entire rail right-of-way and make decisions on what to move forward. And a couple of months ago, we had a consultant come in and look at our rail right-of-way, and we reviewed that with the board a few months ago. And this piece is the first piece that we're actually doing something with to move it along. As you look at the entire rail right-of-way that we own, not just the Oasis line, we also own some north-south rail right-of-way as well.
And they love this, right?
Yes, yes.
I mean, so you think about what we're doing with this assets that we own and helping the transit system, not just down here, because this, I mean, to be clear, this is going to take a little while longer to get to the point where people are running and biking on it. But next year, they'll start on the Wasson Way piece that moves west, that connects from Dana and Montgomery in Evanston by Xavier, all the way over to Avondale to Blair Court Park, which is tremendous. I mean, if you think about now, you've got the Reading Road corridor, which is a huge transit corridor for us, connecting to the Montgomery Road corridor, huge transit corridor for us, all by a safely traveled off-street bike path.
And we'll build shelters, you know, at each end of this, so people, you know, not just to and from work, but for entertainment as well. People can get on a bus and put their bike on the front of the bus and go to a trail and ride the trail, you know, at each end of it. So we're really going to be connecting our region multimodally, you know, bikes, walking, buses. This will be a real positive thing for our community.
And I imagine the residents are probably fairly excited about it, if it's long-term gonna limit the railroad traffic and give them,
I think we would assume that. I think that's the
Yeah.
next step of the city discussion with the community, right?
yeah, okay. Yeah.
But generally, this raises property values and other things, right, having a bike path. Any other questions, comments? There's a lot here.
It's a voice.
It's a voice vote, okay. Did you make a motion?
It's
it's
been
moved and
I think Gwen,
seconded.
I moved it and Gwen
Can't
seconded.
remember, it's so long ago, sorry. Okay, properly moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say all right. Any abstentions? Okay, thanks. You know, 7 years in coming, and maybe within the next 7, we'll get it. Awesome, all right. Aled, this is a really exciting one, guys. It really is, it really is.
Thank you. Good morning. Before I introduce our consultant, just a couple of words. Our reinventing Metro plan has 3 regional components to it. One is the network itself, fixed routes, where we connect with our partners, Butler County, Northern Kentucky Bank, and with other counties as well. The second, and as you know, we're already implementing some of these phases of reinventing Metro. The second regional part was the fair application, which we did in 2019, along with our regional partners as well. And the third regional component is the paratransit. And paratransit service, and you'll hear more about that from our consultant, Liz, is for individuals who cannot use the fixed route, then by law we have to provide an alternative transportation, which we call Access. Our service is called Access, where they have to make reservations in advance, at least 24 hours in advance, and then they'll be picked up, from between, within a 30-minute window. It's a door-to-door service, but that's a service that we've been providing since the ADA law. But that causes issues across the region, just because of the connectivity, transfers. Our vehicles don't cross into the other jurisdictions, like into Butler County, Tank, Northern Kentucky, vice versa. So that kind of complicates things for our customers. And spring of this year, Greg was eager that we start on that effort. So we're lucky to hire Liz Peak, consultant, who has vast experience in these kind of projects. And I'm happy to say that we just concluded that project last month. And Liz will give you a quick presentation on the findings and recommendations. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you. Thank you, Haled and Daryl, for inviting me out to Cincinnati to help you coordinate paratransit service in the region. It has truly been a pleasure, because never in all the agencies I've helped do this, never have I seen such engagement from the board and staff. This has truly been a pleasure. The Greater Cincinnati region is being served by 6 These agencies are traveling throughout their county. SORTA is offering fixed route service and required to offer that complimentary paratransit service within 3/4 of a mile. But you're not crossing county and state lines except for the little tiptoes into these other counties. These other counties are providing demand response service within their county. And they're not coming into Hamilton County. So people that are dependent on paratransit service are frustrated. They've expressed that frustration to your board. And it's also been echoed throughout our planning meetings that we've held throughout the summer and on various regional reports that we are receiving from the Health Collaborative and from OKI. So this board asked staff to identify what are those barriers that people who are dependent on paratransit service are facing. And what kind of strategies can we develop to overcome those barriers and make mobility more accessible for more people, while also making our agencies more cost effective? This is an expensive service to operate. We accomplished this by gathering together over 53 people from 27 different agencies and members and many of the human service agencies, which include the Councils on Aging and departments of people with developmental disabilities, various different agencies. And together, we've been able to identify those transportation barriers. We've developed, and why don't you go ahead and go to the next slide. Let me make sure, there we go. So we've developed 4 goals, and we prioritized 13 strategies or projects that is going to help us implement those goals. These projects, go ahead and go to the next slide, were prioritized through a fun little exercise, and to the right of the goals, or excuse me, to the left, is where you have the prioritization order of what was ranked highest. Now, the highest one is actually attached to our last goal, so we'll get to that in just a minute. But the second highest.
I just want to say that's Robert point, managing the process right there, too.
Yes, Mr. Harris popping in there and.
That's it, you know, we're doing a good job, everyone, we're doing a good job, go ahead.
Thank you, thank you. So the second highest strategy that we developed was to share support services. So we're looking at administratively. As you heard, you just lost a graphic designer, right? He's retiring at the end of this month. There are other roles. You have drivers that you need, they need to be trained. Already we're SORTA is helping out Butler County because they just lost a person that developed what's called TFSP, where they populate your routes to Google Transit. All of a sudden, Butler County was not able to do it. They were able to, through our meetings, understand that SORTA has staff that can do it very well. So you're already helping with this. And OKI is going to help lead some of the efforts through this to help coordinate information and best practices between all the agencies. The second goal is to integrate new technologies. Technology is very expensive, not only to procure, but to maintain. So by coordinating some of these technology purchases and implementation, like you've already done with the Easy Air system, that was a regional purchase and a regional implementation. So we're looking at doing the same thing with some of your scheduling softwares and even at the one-call application. So not only is it going to save your agency money, but it's going to make the whole experience better for your customers. The passengers can go to one place, find that information they need, travel throughout the region. To coordinate services, where transit service is adjacent to another, and you have passengers that are going from one transit agency to another transit agency and so on, it just makes sense to coordinate service planning. regional or regular bus service more efficient for people, all people, then they will be more readily taking the regular service and not taking the paratransit service. So we've identified some potential pilot projects we could do. We also want to improve the wayfinding between bus stops. You notice downtown Cincinnati, we have bus stops spread out all over the place. We need to help people know where they can get off one bus and connect with another bus. Not only just between SORTA buses, but with Tang and the Buffalo County service as well. The fourth goal includes the highest priority item. Now, the goal is to create regional marketing opportunities. But that regional mobility management is letting people know all the modes they can take and letting them choose the most effective mode or even modes for their journey. Whether it's riding a bike trail, take that bike trail and then connect with the bus. Today you don't have you have some system built into your Easy Fare that allows you to take SORTA and Butler and Tank. But we want to expand that to also include some of those other services. Where for a particular journey, it may be more advantageous to that passenger to call or connect with the service that's being provided by the senior center. The COA has a great service as well. We want to make sure that the passengers take the best option. Maybe they call COA instead of calling Access. And we're already implementing many of these strategies. So the 13 strategies, we're already coordinating our support services. We're working on developing and sharing of information on a web platform between the different transit agencies. And your staff is working with ODOT and OKI to develop grant applications so that we can fund the implementation of that one call center and the shared regional services. So I know that Khalid is looking forward to sharing more information with you over the next year, and these strategies are achieved. Thank you
Liz.
very much.
Thank you.
Did you have any questions?
Well, you know, I fired about 2,000 at you last month.
I forgot to really thank Robert. I mean, he's been an instrumental part of this effort. He's been all of these meetings and activities, and his input has been, tremendous. And I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Robert. I really believe this may be the most, this may be the most impactful thing we do here. I know, and it's not what most of us use every day, but it's so tremendous for the community. And I think we're going to see, as this service gets better, we can have exponential increase in usage of it, because it's just not very friendly today, and so it's kind of a last resort. But so excited about it. I know it's, maybe sometimes on the screen this way it doesn't really get you excited, but there's a lot to it.
I'm sorry, I do have a question.
Fire away.
I apologize, I was at the committee meeting where you presented this in more detail and I had to leave early, so I apologize for that, because I could have asked this question there. In goal 4, the top goal, I just want to make sure I have my head around this. When we talk about the regional mobility management program and marketing and messaging, I mean, it seems to me like this is something that sort of naturally ties back to goal 2 with the unified scheduling. And I don't know if I'm thinking about that the right way. Or are those completely distinct kind of things?
Yeah, I mean, with a lot of these goals, there's a lot of connectivity.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of dependency between these goals. So yes, regional mobility management is technology, and it's also the people power. It's understanding all the opportunities for mobility that are out there, and so important because it is connected with really all those other strategies.
Yeah, it seems to be more of an umbrella, really, than kind of a standalone thing. So I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. So I think what you're really describing is a system where the user has one number to call, for instance, they don't know entirely what service they're gonna use as a result, but that the person getting the call knows how to leverage the best option for that person.
Yeah, I agree with you. That is gonna have tremendous impact.
I have a question. So I'm just kind of curious, what exactly is going to happen here? Because like when I go on like a transit app and I punch in my address, it tells me I can get on a bus or I can get a lift. Are you going beyond that? Are you duplicating that? What exactly are you advocating?
And regional mobility management is also, you had an individual, and it could be a sort of staff, it could be from any other agency, that is reaching out to these human service agencies and saying, okay, so you're providing service to older adults and taking an older adult door through door. So they're going into the home, helping them, taking them all the way to the medical facility and helping them into the doctor's office. If a passenger was to come today to access, or somebody saying, my mom can't take fixed route because she needs additional help, but your access drivers won't take her through the door, we need something more. A mobility manager will be able to say, well, the COA can do that. They can go door through door, they have that extra looking at more person-centric, finding that the correct mobility for that person. This is more important on the paratransit side because you can take anything. You have this flexibility and you can take a lift or the bus, and you have that technology that's available. Paratransit has more nuances to them because you don't want your grandmother getting on an Uber because they're not going to help her through the door, and it could get more complicated there.
So is this going to be a human being, or is this you going to use technology to do? Like, it just seems like that's very hard to know all the different ins and outs around this area of what they can access.
Right, and it's going to be both.
Combination of both. You know, one of the things like today, if you're in Northern Kentucky and you're going to the VA,
Yeah.
you actually have to call Tanks Paratransit and schedule a trip with them. And you have to call our paratransit and schedule a trip with us. So you have the half an hour window for the tank vehicle to pick you up. Then the tank vehicle will literally drop them off in downtown Cincinnati. And then you have that half an hour window for the metro vehicle to pick them up, to take them to their destination. And they have to do the exact same thing on the return trip. We envision a time where you call one number, you plan your entire trip, that person handles the whole trip. The tank vehicle picks you up, takes you to your destination, and then we reimburse Tank for their portion of the trip in Cincinnati. And then on the return trip, it's the same. One vehicle picks you up, takes you back to your destination, and then we bill Tank for the piece that's in Kentucky. But a much simpler, quicker, easier trip for the paratransit community, because right now it is very difficult for them, especially if they're crossing, you know, in the Butler County, Claremont County, Warren County, Northern Kentucky. I mean, they have to literally call multiple phone numbers and schedule multiple trips. So we envision a one number, an app that will connect all of those, and a much simpler trip for the paratransit community.
And those surrounding areas have bought into this?
They've all been at the table, yes.
What's our timeline on that, Daryl?
This is something also that it's not going to be very easy to do.
It sounds super easy. I don't understand.
So January 1 is what we just don't know which year.
We hope that,
We'll open up a lot of opportunities for a lot of different people, including those who are blind, those who have other mobility limitations, those who have gotten older, you know, who are getting older or who will get older, and will need that additional service and will need that additional, you know, so I'm happy to be here.
Well, if you support it, I definitely support it.
Thank you.
There's a lot of work to do.
we're going to start looking for software right away. You know, first part of next year, we'll be looking for software. We're looking to start to implement some of this next year.
And this also all connects into larger mobility as a service discussions for para on demand, but also, fixed route. You could even have planning that would integrate bike trails and say, this is another solution for you on what you want to do. And there's a huge future in this for transit and providing transit to people. So I think this is great, but yes, it takes technology and people. And not just having the initial technology in place, but one of the biggest challenges is keeping it up to date from all the different systems and maintaining those connections so that you have the best data for people to help.
We have
riders
also been
with.
talking to ODOT about this. They're very interested in it as well. We also believe we're going to get some funding, some state and federal funding to help us move this along as well. So we're really excited about this.
Yep.
And again, thank you to Craig because he keeps pushing us to make sure we keep this as one of our top priorities.
Well, thank you. But I think the other great thing here is this, in point of cooperation, I think to your point, Thaddeus, that it's hard for any county, any state, any other agencies to say we don't want these folks to have a better experience.
Yeah.
And this really leans right into it and isn't competitive with each other. But the fact is a lot of services are available in every place, and so we have to find ways to get people around the entire region. And I think it's, if it was easy, we would have done it already. But I applaud the team for plowing ahead and really excited about the opportunity. Thank you. I wasn't trying to kill conversation there, but. All right, so more to come. Really, really exciting stuff. Metro on the move.
And I have to say that it is really hard to believe that we are at the end of another year. These last 2 years have been interesting with the pandemic, but as we come to another year, even through these challenging times, we have had a lot of accomplishments this year. I'll just name a few. We testified before the Senate hearing in support of increased investment in transit, and we all know how that turned out really well. We hosted the Vice President in Cincinnati. We witnessed the President Biden signing of into law the largest ever investment in public transportation. We awarded over $220 million in transit infrastructure funds to fix bridges and roadways and sidewalks in our community. We received over $26 million in federal grants to further modernize our fleet, upgrade our aging infrastructure, and to build a new transit center in North College Hill. We rolled out Phase 1 and 2A of Reinventing Metro. We simplified our fare structure. We got Everybody Rides Metro launched, and we're actually helping people connect. We added 41 new buses to our fleet this year. Our entire fleet now has free Wi-Fi on it, and we offer 25 days of free rides to vaccination sites. A couple of other things that's going on this month. We are spreading the holiday cheer with Stuff the Bus at our North Side and Oakley Transit Centers. We partner with 2021 Live's Toy Drive and Radio 1 to fill a bus with toys and other gifts for children. We did Shop with the Cop. The Holly Jolly bus is coming. There'll be free rides for anybody that gets on the Holly Jolly bus. It'll be a bus all decorated in holiday, and anyone that gets on that bus, it'll be free rides for that. And on December 13th, 12 Days of Christmas, trivia for giveaway and free ride passes. We have Shop and Vax on Metro December 17th, 18th, and 19th. Chance for people to get out and get their vaccine and also get their shots.
We're not vaxxing on the bus.
We're not vaxxing, we're taking them too.
I don't think our insurance covers that.
Although that is a thought.
Slow down.
And I want to remind everyone that ODOT has funded the free rides. Also, is Jeff still here? Jeff, will you stand up? Congratulations to Jeff Munstock, our Director of Maintenance, on being recognized by Mass Transit magazines as top 40 under 40 in the Transit Regency. Congratulations, Jeff. And we've talked to you about our public relations, our external affairs team for winning 3 Blacksmith Awards from Cincinnati chapter of Public Relations Society of America, as well as a Diamond Award from the East Central District of PRSA for the Northside Transit Center grand opening. They also won an award for 10 Days, 10 Routes event celebrating the launch of Reinventing Metro. So for Brandy and her team, congratulations. And we talked about the transit infrastructure signing ceremony. Would love to see everyone there. It's January 13th from 4 to 6. And as this is our last board meeting of the year, the staff at SORTA would again like to thank the board for all of your hard work. We realize how hard this is for the board as well. We've had a very successful year, and we thank the board for all of the support and the direction that you've given us to make a difference in the community that we all live in. So thank you to the board of the directors. And that is Metro on the Move for this month.
Thank you, and thank you. I think, Daryl, you get a round of applause, too, for tremendous leadership this year. So much. Really exciting. I did want to just take 30 seconds on the status of the ATU process.
Sure. So as negotiations reached a point where, we didn't reach a contractual agreement, the next step was to present our cases in front of a state-appointed neutral, a fact finder, as he's termed. So we had that hearing yesterday, concluded the hearing. So the next steps now are for the fact finder to issue his recommendation, what he thinks the contract should be, and then the parties will have a very time-sensitive window to react within 7 days, 7 calendar days, to see if they are okay with a recommendation and let them stand, or to move to reject, which sets other things in motion. But for right now, both parties have made their case in front of the neutral. He's considering all the information, and we await his decision in the coming weeks.
Right, so he has 2 weeks to respond?
2 weeks. It could be as late as December 31st, given the holidays and everything. But yeah, I would not expect it this week, but after next week, we'll be waiting to find out.
So this is the challenge. So we have 7 days to respond, right? So there'll probably be an invitation to a special meeting at some point over the holidays. We couldn't control some of the schedule, right? So I know that means some people probably will be out of town and those kind of challenges. We don't really control the timeline at this point, so I apologize for that in advance. Okay? Questions for John? No? We'll get together on Christmas Day. It'll be fun. So thank you. I know, I look forward to seeing a lot of you tomorrow night. So look forward to that. Otherwise, any other new business? No? Okay. Meeting adjourned.
A little.